Thank you very much, Anna. It's a real pleasure to see all of you here and so many faces from M0 and so many new faces. We didn't manage to get M1 done exactly 1 year after M0 because we've been so busy. So I heard a couple of people say this morning, wow, it's been a really long year since M0, but it's actually been 18 months for everyone's information. And that's because we've been so busy, and I hope that the next few hours will reflect that. But what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of a view from my perspective on the state of on-chain asset management, which I hope is what we're all here for today. I'm going to kick off by talking a little bit about the original problem that we saw in the asset management world, which kind of gives some color into why Melonport was founded and what we hope to strive towards. I'm going to give you a little bit of a top-down view on where we are today in the kind of ecosystem of on-chain asset management. And then I'm going to give you some views and ideas on where I think we go from here. So let's kick off. Before we start, we really need to understand the problem. There was a really great article in the FT this week which said it better than I could say it. The cost of financial intermediation has been going up in pretty much a straight line for the last 130 years, which is kind of crazy when you think about all the new technology we have available to us, all the new toolings we have, and so on and so forth. So this is a problem. And when you talk to a lot of small to medium-sized managers, you start to understand that in order to survive as a hedge fund manager, you need to have, on average, at least $100 million in assets under management before you even stand a chance of surviving beyond the first year. I can tell you that from personal experience. A shocking little fact, just off the top of my head, one value transaction within a fund, just off the top of my head, I can think of 6 financial intermediaries it involves. A transfer agent, a fund administrator, a custodian, independent auditor, an internal operations team, and so on and so forth. And all of these are mouths that need to be fed and fees that need to be paid. And it's no wonder that costs are so high in the industry. These present barriers to entry. And ultimately, all of us that work very hard to save money and preserve that capital and hopefully put some away for our future kids and grandkids or just to have a little bit of fun, basically rely on these investment funds in order to preserve the capital. But if barriers to entry are so high, then basically the options we have available to us are the largest funds, not the best funds necessarily. And that seems to be what's happening. There was a great statistic in one of these reports last year which said that about 99% of assets in the hedge fund world are invested in 500 of the largest hedge funds. And that's because people are afraid to invest in smaller funds in case they fail. So the other problem with all these intermediaries is transparency is incredibly low. When you have T+2, T+3 settlement, it's very hard to track transactions. It's very hard to see what your real risk is. You have to rely on people to tell you. You have to rely on human beings through the chain, through the value chain to check you. And it's no wonder you need all these kind of intermediaries. We're going to see how blockchain changes all of this with immediate settlement, electronic settlement, reliable settlement. But ultimately, the point I want to make is at the end, it's the savers, all of us in this room, that suffer, and everyone else that just tries to work hard and put away their savings for their future. I'm going to ask the audience a question. Can anyone tell me what the most innovative thing in the asset management infrastructure has been in the last decade, 2 decades, 3 decades? Excel. Actually, I hadn't thought of that, but I think he's right. I think it was Excel. Yeah. Shocking, right? I think it's the last, did you have, sorry? Yeah, sorry, but in the infrastructure side of things, true. But unfortunately, we've seen no innovation, right? In fact, we've just seen clunky architecture being built on top of old architecture to the point where it's now like so fragile and complicated and slow and expensive that it's almost embarrassing. So we have a way to fix this. It doesn't have to be that way. Blockchain technology has enabled us to do things differently. And I hope that we'll be able to convince you of that in the next couple of days, if you're not already convinced. And maybe that brings me nicely to why Melonport was founded. So we identified this problem almost 3 years ago. We launched a token sale in February 2017, almost 2 years to the day today, where we set out a mandate with our token holders, and we promised to work on building a new asset management infrastructure on Ethereum. And this was supposed to be a 2-year mandate, at which at the end we would deploy it to the mainnet and make it publicly available to anyone who wanted to use it. And this is Melon. So what is Melon? Melon is a protocol, an open source protocol, which allows you to predefine the parameters by which you want a fund to run. So what does that mean? If I want to set up a fund today, I can predefine rules today using Melon, such as what is my asset universe, which exchanges do I want to be able to trade with, which performance and management fees do I want to charge to my investors, which investors do I want to allow into my fund, what risk management tools do I want to have imposed on my fund, and so on and so forth. All of these rules, for once, are written in code, not in like clunky fund prospectuses enforced by human beings and intermediaries. It's written in code and enforced by the blockchain. You can deploy these smart contracts to the blockchain, and you then have your own fund address, which people can invest into directly. So we have found a way to remove the intermediaries almost completely, unless you want to add back a little bit of user-friendliness later, but that there's no reason you need to do that. So we can basically replace the financial intermediaries with code. You can reduce the administrative headaches for the fund manager, especially the small to medium-sized managers who suffer that even more than bigger fund managers. And we can finally drive the cost of intermediation in the financial world down towards zero. Not quite zero, but down towards zero. Our mission is to be the operational, administrative, and regulatory backbone for asset management 3.0. And I hope today that you will see that we have the beginnings of that in the works. We want to be open and transparent. You'll know, those of you who know us, will know that we've been open source almost from day one. All our code is on our GitHub repositories, and any investors in Melon funds can openly view that code and check that the rules that the manager says they have are actually the rules that are in the fund. The code, the protocol is reliable because you rely on code as opposed to human beings. So you have to trust the code. And I hope that you'll see that through our governance and tokenomics, that we've also tried to consider all stakeholders in the ecosystem, including future maintainers and developers, token holders, and users of the protocol. So with that, we think it's time to leapfrog. We've been sitting on asset management 1.0 for far too long. And in case you think we're crazy, we're not leapfrogging alone. There's a few other players, many of them in this room with us today or who will be joining us later, who are also leapfrogging with us to asset management 3.0, whether it's people who are in the tokenization space, people who are in the decentralized exchange space, credit and lending is coming to the blockchain, derivatives, and digital blockchain identity. And guess what? All of these solutions you're looking at are without financial intermediaries. And I mentioned that FT article earlier this week. It's also exciting to say that even smart media is catching on. It was really great to see this headline article in the FT on Monday. How blockchain can help disrupt the fund administration chain. Amazing. We've been saying this for almost 3 years, and it's so exciting to see this mentioned in the FT, such a prominent newspaper and such a well-known writer, David Stevenson. We tried to get him here, but it was a little bit last minute. So with that, I give you Asset Management 3.0. Where are we today? We're hoping to release version 1.0 of the protocol in the coming days. I'm not going to spend too much time on that because you're going to hear a lot more about that from the team later. We've got a great token model, which we think is very unique in that it's managing to link the utility, so the usage of the network to the purchasing power of the token. We have a governance model, which we think takes care of, especially takes care of the users of the network, which are the most vulnerable participants in the network. And some of you who were here at M0 will remember the inauguration of MAMA, the Multi-Chain Asset Management Association, which has been doing some great work on the regulatory front, lobbying for on-chain asset management with regulators and governments on a global basis. Some of you will also remember that we promised at the end of our 2-year mandate to step down and hand over the protocol to a decentralized governance system. We will be doing that officially tomorrow when we hand over to the Melon Council. We believe we have delivered on our promise, or we will have delivered on our promise by the time we deploy version 1.0. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has been a huge support to making this happen, starting with the team who are kind of spread around the room, who have done an amazing job the last 2 years. Their work ethic says it all. They've been very hardworking, very driven. It's very unusual to see such a non-complex protocol come to market without any significant delays. And I think that speaks for themselves. It's not a big team. I think at the peak we were 12 people. And I think that that speaks just for the hard work and dedication for these great guys and girls who surround me today. But beyond the team, everyone in this room, everyone in our community, everyone who's watching on live stream, everyone who's been supporting us from day one, our advisors, our volunteers, our friends and family who have made it possible for us to work those late nights and extra hours. I think we also couldn't have done it without you. We've had some great feedback from the community. We've had some great ideas. Some of them we've been able to implement. Some of them have been queued up to do later. But thank you to all of you for your contribution, enthusiasm, and excitement. But I don't want to make this sound like goodbye, because it's not. It's just the beginning. So after Melonport closes down, the Melonport team will be jumping into a new company called Mediba, or at least that's the placeholder name for now, which will focus on working with this new infrastructure layer and building product, usable product on top of it. We're very excited about what we've done so far. The next step is bringing it to the users, making it easily accessible, making the headaches, any remaining headaches, whether that's regulatory issues, whether that's user interface or user problems, whether that's looking after interacting with the blockchain in a way you don't even feel you're interacting with it. And that will be the project that will start a few weeks after Melonport winds down. And other players in the ecosystem that are leapfrogging with us are Ash by Midas Technologies. Are they in the room, by the way? Okay, they'll be here later. But Midas Technologies have been working on the Melon protocol now for a few months. They've been building a new application on top of Melon, which is a gamification app for fund managers. It's a really fun use case that we had never envisaged, but it's basically gives people the possibility to do a battle of the managers and challenge one another using this cool mobile interface. And I think their beta is coming out in 2 weeks, so if you grab them, you may be able to get on the beta testing list. And also Mama has been leapfrogging with us. I mentioned them briefly earlier. We are now up to 65 members with Mama in the on-chain asset management space. We're still the only association that is working to solve regulatory issues around on-chain management. We had a couple of small victories that I'd like to highlight in the last couple of months. Anyone who read the Swiss Blockchain Federal Report will notice there was a section dedicated to on-chain asset management, thanks to the feedback that was provided by the association. And I think there was a line in there, I forget exactly what it said, but that you can imagine with all these decentralized technologies coming out, a financial future with no intermediaries there. And we're looking at how this could work in the legal system. And this is revolutionary from Switzerland, given how many people are not even aware that this is happening. And it's nice to see the canton of Zug here supporting us as well, by the way. Hi, Bad. So before I say that, and so another small victory was with the French finance ministry, where they were looking for feedback on crypto custody, and we, together with AFGC, we submitted some feedback to the largest French asset management association, and we managed to get a section written up on the idea of self-custody, the idea of looking after your own assets, and maybe questioning this need for a legal custodian to always have to exist, but making it a user choice. So AFGC are here, and you'll see them later today. They've been doing some great work in the French scene, and it's been great to be able to collaborate with them together with Mama. So before I give you on to the talks for the rest of the day, I'm just going to leave you with one thought. We've talked a little bit about some of the projects that are leapfrogging forward with on-chain asset management post-Melon. And we want to just make a call to action from the audience and anyone watching is leapfrog with us, become a frog with us. There's different ways you can get involved. Hopefully you'll see in the next 2 days that we've designed a token model which hopefully links the usage of the network to the value of the token, which is a great incentive for developers to get involved, help make this an even better infrastructure, add features, complete MIP, Melon improvement proposals, or even scrap, ICO and aligned interest further by applying to the Melon Council for a Melon grant to do whatever application you want to do on top of Melon. Token holders, I hope that we have looked after you with the token economics as well. It really is a utility token in the sense that it links the usage of the network to the purchasing power of the token. And we hope that token holders will take the opportunity to spread the word about Melon, get testing, and telling people about it so that it becomes a bigger and bigger phenomenon. And last but not least, the users. Lots of you are already in the room. I'd like to say a big thank you to the users. In the last year alone, I think we've had 700 testers on the Covan testnet in total. We had about 70 at least testers on the mainnet who committed real capital when we went to the mainnet for testing. Huge thank you to you. Huge thank you for trying it out. Huge thank you for providing your feedback and helping us get to the next level. And we hope you continue to do that because there's still a lot more work to be done. So with that, I think I will hand over to the next speakers. And just leaving you with one message, it doesn't end, it's starting today. And I hope that the next 2 days will be full of ideas, interesting discussions around collaborations, and just a lot of networking and discussions on how we can see this jump to the next level. Thank you very much.